Robert Levasseur is an executive compensation expert and a recent speaker at a Strategic Capability Network event in Toronto. Robert sat down with Canadian HR Reporter TV to talk to us about what's equitable in executive compensation. So we tend to assume that if you're a CEO, you must be commanding this extremely high compensation. But is that a bit of a misconception?
Well, some CEOs make a lot of money, others not so much. As a matter of fact, there has been some research that's been conducted by the University of Michigan recently where they've looked at U.S. labor statistics, and there are 248,000 CEOs in the United States that are in their database, and the average compensation for those 248,000 CEOs is $178,000, which is just a multiple of about 5 times their average industrial wage. We tend to focus on the top earners, and those are the earners that that tend to be mentioned in the newspapers. So as a result, we assume that all CEOs are making tons of money. Fact of the matter is that a very large part of our economy is generated by CEOs of small companies and medium-sized companies. So as a result, it's a bit of a misconception to look at the CEOs that are quoted in or that are mentioned, I beg your pardon, in the papers as being the norm. I mean, they are very much the exception.
Why is CEO turnover so expensive?
Well, it's expensive. Mary Lou referred to the fact that it cost their organization a lot of money just with respect to consulting costs and so on. But it's also very expensive because you're usually the departing CEO leaves with a lot of benefits that they negotiated when they were hired initially. So that just tends to increase the price of the whole process. Recruitment of any employee is an expensive process, but a senior executive, especially a CEO, is very, very expensive. And of course, you put a lot of effort and time into it because you just don't want to get it wrong. If you get it wrong, you've got to go through the whole process again.
So we know turnover and hiring CEOs externally can be quite expensive. So why aren't more organizations putting that effort in to develop CEOs internally?
That's a big mystery. You'd think that there would be much more internal development. I think there are a lot of issues, and I'll mention a few of them that sort of come to mind. The first, of course, is that boards of directors don't tend to be that disciplined as a rule in terms of developing succession plans. Succession plans require a lot of work. You'll see binders produced with charts, and then you have to have interviews and bring in specialists to help develop, to help identify the talents that people have and so on. So it is a very expensive and rigorous process. But fact of the matter is that as we've discovered, it isn't as expensive as recruiting from the outside. I think another reason is that it's really hard to single one individual. What happens is that it tends to motivate a lot of the other senior executives who think that they're also up for the job. So it often causes a very acrid environment in the organization. So here you are trying to develop someone to take over, and oftentimes there's a lot of spillage, so to speak, because of the process that you've undertaken.
In your opinion, what are some of the biggest challenges in executive compensation?
Well, my biggest challenge, and I think the challenge for everyone who consults in that business, is to really find a way to pay for performance. we have a number of programs. They're not always appropriate for every type of organization. Oftentimes, oftentimes the industry will have an impact on the type of programs that are used. So, so really coming up with programs that actually pay for performance sounds easy, but is extremely challenging. And once you've developed programs, you have to maintain them, you have to look at them. It's something that needs a lot of care as you're moving along. So that is it. You know, all the rest is maintenance stuff. In effect, it's finding the best way to truly pay for someone's performance, especially at a senior level, that is our biggest challenge.